Hello and welcome back to the 5-Minute Film Club, and today I'm continuing my SpiderVerse series rewatch with 2016's Captain America Civil War. Captain America Civil War saw the introduction of Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film itself rounds out the Captain America trilogy and deals with a lot of fallout from Avengers Age of Ultron, when Tony Stark unwittingly unleashed an artificial intelligence hell-bent on bringing about the end of humanity. This leads to the UN creating the Sokovia Accords. That would mean the Avengers would be overseen by a panel. This creates a rift within the team, with Stark, after nearly causing human extinction, obviously doubtful of his own powers, whereas Cap doesn't want to be used by politicians. However, there is so much more going on. The Avengers are a family, and so this is essentially a family drama. But also, I think this film is a mediation on that superhero trope of city flattening, in the third act of a superhero film. Now, I really enjoyed this when I saw it back in the cinema, and it's one of the few MCU films that I've sat down and watched multiple times. I do love how this film is structured and the themes that it plays with. And also watching it this time, after watching a dozen or so Bond films back to back, that opening Lagos mission is very much one of those, pre-titled Bond moments. The stunts in this film, particularly in the opening section, are so visceral. They are incredible, and I was listening to the audio commentary, and the stunt team is the same one from Winter Soldier, and they are actually doing all of those things. That's a real person flying around somebody's neck and flipping them over. Love it. Directors Joe and Anthony Russo's first film for the MCU was Winter Soldier back in 2014. That film added a whole different layer of storytelling to the MCU and has far more common with American films from the 1970s, and even has Robert Redford in it. The reaction to the film was such that immediately they were put to direct the largest film in the franchise since the original Avengers. Civil War is the 13th MCU film, and more than any of the films before it, it really does reward its audience having seen the previous films. It is so stuffed full of characters and has so much story to set up and deliver over its running time. It's incredible that it actually manages to do it all and do it successfully. Because it is based on a successful and popular run of the comics from the mid-2000s, there was an expectation for the film going in. This is the film that sees the Avengers fight each other. However, what I like about it is how it builds up to that inevitable event, and has a fantastic about turn towards the end. Aside from the introduction of Black Panther, this film also deals with the introduction of Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When writing the script, the Russo brothers and their writing partners, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, knew that they needed to inject a couple of characters that didn't have established alliances on either Captain America's side or Iron Man's side. And so that's why Ant-Man and Spider-Man are brought in to kind of face off with each other in that fantastic 15-minute end of second act blowout where the Avengers just go all out on each other. Tom Holland here is the new Spider-Man, and he's much younger than previous actors, and as such we also have the first age-appropriate Aunt May. We don't get much of an insight into Peter's life other than he's got a rather boxy room that is distinctly absent of any posters on the wall, something that's been a staple of the Spider-Man films and something that the Russos wanted to get away from. I think when you see inside Peter Parker's bedroom for the first time and inside his apartment, you get the feeling that this is actually a real teenager living there. In the past, the Spider-Mans have felt a little bit like the directors have watched quite a few John Hughes films, and then they're trying to turn that into the early 2000s, or Andrew Garfield. It just doesn't feel like a proper teenager's bedroom. And where Tom Holland comes really live is when he is in the suit and immediately letting rip with some great sparky dialogue that feels like it's lifted right from the comic. There's that brilliant line about the AT-ATs from Empire Strikes Back, and it's just right for this Spider-Man, and also a perfect fit for the established comedy in the MCU. Winter Soldier was one of the many turning points in the MCU when they realised they could stretch the boundaries a bit more of what a superhero movie was, and Civil War capitalised on that film's success and did the rare thing of making a film that was bigger in terms of its characters and scope, and pulled off both with apparent ease. Is it any wonder after watching Civil War that Joe and Anthony Russo and Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely were given the task of creating the culmination of all of the Marvel movies so far, 22 films, and create Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, two of the biggest films in cinema history. You'll have to wait a couple of months before I get to those behemoths, as next month I'm going back to school with Spider-Man Homecoming. So please let me know your thoughts about Civil War in the comments down below, and I'll see you next month for my review of Spider-Man Homecoming. Thank you very much. Goodbye.